A joint Russian-Chinese meeting will be held next month to look into the Syrian crisis. Syrian army units are still clashing with armed terrorist groups. And Australia now puts the al-Nusra Front on the blacklist of terrorist organizations. Good afternoon, this is news in English from the Syrian Television in Damascus. The Kremlin announced that the new Chinese President Xi Jinping will visit Moscow on March 22nd at the invitation of Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two leaders will discuss developments in the Middle East, particularly the crisis in Syria and the Iranian nuclear file, in addition to the Afghan question, the security situation in the Korean Peninsula and Northeast Asia, in addition to aspects of bilateral cooperation in all fields. The two sides will also sign a number of agreements to consolidate their strategic partnership. The Kremlin also pointed out that this summit in Moscow will also concentrate on developing Russian-Chinese cooperation in the UN, the G20, the BRICS group, and the Organization of Economic Cooperation in Asia and the Pacific. Head of Iran's Higher National Security Council, Saeed Jalili, renewed his country's support for the approach of the Syrian government to solve the crisis through comprehensive dialogue and with the national opposition in order to regain security and stability in the country. During his meeting with Syrian ambassador to Tehran, Dr. Adnan Mahmoud, Jalili said that the Western countries realized that they were unable to defeat Syria, discovering that it was stronger than they had imagined, pointing out that the mistakes which have been committed for 2 years by the West and its allies in the region through supporting the terrorist groups in Syria and providing them with weapons and money have put them in a spiral and made them scrambling in all directions. For his part, Ambassador Mahmoud expressed his appreciation for the stances of Iran in support of Syria to face the unprecedented US-Western war against it, emphasizing the need to enhance the strategic relations by boosting the steadfastness of the Syrian people, especially in the economic field, by the implementation of the signed agreements in this domain. Moving to field developments, terrorists attacked a bus this morning along the highway between Aswaida and Damascus, killing and wounding several passengers. An official source also told news reporters that terrorists opened fire at the bus near Najha, killing a child and a young man and wounding several others. 2 people were injured today when an explosive device exploded. The device was attached to a parked car in the Zaqaq al-Jinn neighborhood in the area of Al-Fahami in Damascus. In Damascus countryside, Syrian Arab army killed many terrorists and injured others, destroying their hideouts and seizing their weapons and ammunition in Adra and its surroundings. Syrian military units also destroyed a number of vehicles with all terrorists inside, along with their weapons and ammunition in Tel al-Zamarani, Tel al-Wadi and al-Dumaini farm in Qara. A military source said that a unit of the Syrian Arab army confronted an armed terrorist group that tried to attack a military post in Al-Qasir in Homs countryside. Many terrorists were killed and several others were injured in the operation. Their vehicles were also destroyed. The source added that another unit of the Syrian Arab army killed many terrorists and injured several others who were trying to attack army posts in the surrounding area of the hotel's area in the eastern neighborhood of Palmyra. A unit of the armed forces also targeted gatherings of terrorists who were committing acts of sabotage and looting in the towns and villages of Abil, Salmuniya, Al-Shumaira, Al-Hamidiyya, Al-Buwaida, Al-Sharqiyya, Al-Salihiyya and Al-Dabba in Al-Qasir countryside, inflicting direct losses among the terrorists. In the city of Homs, and in the context of chasing the remnants of the terrorists in the neighborhoods of Bab Houd, Bab Amru and Al-Qusur, units of the Syrian Arab Army eliminated dozens of terrorists and injured many others. In Homs, Syrian troops and border guards foil attempts made by terrorist groups to infiltrate from the Lebanese territories across the sites of Al-Muthanna and Ayun al-Shara area near Talkalakh. The attack was accompanied by gunfire from the Lebanese side. Many terrorists were killed or injured, and the remnants were forced to flee into the Lebanese territories. Syrian Arab Army units continue to chase terrorist groups in Dalla and its countryside, killing and wounding many of them and destroying their weapons. An official source told news reporters that the so-called Al-Nusra Front sustained heavy losses while they were committing crimes of murder and abduction and sabotage in the town of Khirbat Ghazali and the northern area of Mahajji. The source added that a unit of the Syrian army destroyed a terrorist hideout in Al-Shumara inside the town of Dalla. A unit of the armed forces clashed with terrorist groups, killing several of them, including Abdullah Ahmed Abu Isba' and Nasser Mustafa Abu Nabut. Many touristic establishments became targets for terrorist attacks, looting its contents and using it as hideouts for terrorists. Security forces in Palmyra liberated the Faro Hotel, Samiramis and Bedouin area, killing 10 terrorists and wounding 15 others. Liberated hotels showed traces of terrorist sabotage after they were important touristic destinations. While the Syrian army continued to clean the city, the security forces killed and wounded many terrorists and confiscated from them a lot of stolen goods, including explosive devices and medical equipment. Australian government announced yesterday that it had listed the so-called Al-Nusra Front in the blacklist of terrorist organization. Australia has thus become the second country to do so after the United States of America. The Australian Foreign Minister, Bob Carr, said Australia would deprive this organization of financial support. He added that this organization has 5,000 terrorists operating in Syria and a long history of terrorist attacks, not only against the Syrian army but also against civilian citizens. Mr. Carr added that there would be no place for this organization in Syria or anywhere else. He pointed out that there were direct evidence showing links between this terrorist organization and Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Any Australian citizens collecting money for this terrorist organization could be imprisoned for 10 years. All the financial sources of this organization will be confiscated, and everybody should report such financial activities to the Australian Foreign Ministry. The damages in schools and educational institutions in the Damascus countryside exceeded 1 billion Syrian pounds. The cost of rebuilding the destroyed 15 schools would amount to 375 million Syrian pounds. The school partially destroyed would cost 183 million Syrian pounds to be repaired. There were sabotage acts in more than 200 schools. The cost of repairing them would exceed 500 million Syrian pounds. More than 240 schools were also sabotaged, causing damages exceeding 72 million Syrian pounds. The terrorists also stole 5 cars costing nearly 3 million Syrian pounds. The total cost of repairing 180 schools last year amounted to 60 million Syrian pounds. In Chicago, Syrian students joined several Arab communities in a large demonstration in support of Syria and its war against terrorism. The demonstrators expressed support for national dialogue to enable everybody to take part in rebuilding the country. They announced support for the Syrian leadership and expressed appreciation of the sacrifices of the Syrian Arab Army, denouncing the attitudes of the West and the UN to the crisis. They renewed their support for their homeland against the vicious attack targeting it. In Cairo, more than 30 people were wounded during renewed clashes between demonstrators and the Egyptian police before the headquarters of the Muslim Brotherhood in the area of Al-Muqattam. Medical sources said cars received 30 cases of wounded victims, while more than 20 demonstrators were detained. The Union of Egyptian Journalists organized a protest stand before the office of the Union to denounce the attacks of special guards in the Office of Guidance that belongs to the Muslim Brotherhood against journalists and demonstrators. Going back to our local developments, the Minister of Health, Dr. Saad al-Naif, discussed with the Russian ambassador in Damascus, Mr. Azamatullah Kolmuhammadov, the mechanisms of consolidating cooperation between the two countries, particularly in the field of increasing the provisions of medical needs. The Minister suggested the signature of an agreement of mutual recognition of registering medicine and medical compounds with the Russian side in order to facilitate the exchange of medicine and to open the markets for these products through eliminating bureaucratic measures. The minister said this agreement would contribute to ensuring the needs of various medical compounds to treat chronic diseases. He pointed out that the ministry supplied all citizens with health services free of charge. In spite of all the challenges and difficulties, the capacities of hospitals have been increased. The Russian ambassador stressed the necessity of consolidating cordial relations between the two countries in a practical way through the continuation of support and assistance and supplying the Syrian needs of medicine and health equipment. With this, we come to the end of our news for today. You can learn more on our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. Stay with us, the latest in economy and finance after the break with Nariman.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Protection proposed approving exceptional ration cards for gas, diesel fuel and bread. The Ministry added that it will print 600 million cards to cover the needs for millions of families. The Ministry also proposed printing 12 million new ration cards for sugar and rice. On the other hand, the number of the citizens that will get benefit of such cards reached about 20 million people. In Al-Hasaka Governorate, the Plant Department Director asserted that the wheat crops and the winter plants are good. The director said that the total irrigated wheat cultivated area is about 253,000 hectares. He also pointed out that the rain-watered wheat cultivated area is about 330,000 hectares. The General Cement Establishment announced that the affiliated companies will try to utilize the maximum capacity of production in order to meet the demands of the local market, adding that the actual production was about 3,900,000 tons of cement during the previous year. On the other hand, the establishment stressed that the production during the previous years reached 35 million tons of cement, as the profits during the same period approached 13 billion and 14 million Syrian pounds. The crude oil price fell more than $1, declining from $109 per barrel, while prices of the stocks in addition to the US dollar were high after a package to save Cyprus included an exceptional proposal which may raise a new financial crisis in the Eurozone. European shares tumbled the most in more than 2 weeks after the Eurozone forced Cyprus to adopt a levy on the bank deposits, prompting concern that the single currency's debt crisis will get worse, as the US index futures and the Asian shares also sank. On the other hand, the Nikkei index dropped 1.56% in the early trading of Tokyo Stock Exchange. In the local market, the 21-carat gold rose 50 Syrian pounds to reach 4,800 Syrian pounds per gram, as the jewelers' assembly set the price of the Rashadi golden coin at 35,000 Syrian pounds and the English coin at 39,200 Syrian pounds. The euro fell the most in 14 months against the US dollar after an unprecedented levy on the bank deposits in Cyprus, as the 17-nation euro declined by the most in 3 weeks against the yen, as investors sought the haven assets after Cypriot President bowed to the demands of the Eurozone's finance ministers to raise 5.8 billion euros by taking a piece of every bank account in Cyprus, whereas the yen strengthened against against all of its 16 major counterparts. Ladies and gentlemen, this was our economic news for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.